Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for another Cosmonarchy Tournament cast. Tribunal 4 continues, and we are on to the fourth opening series. All of them are best of 5, it's single elimination, it's cutthroat, and it features 2 players that start with A, if you count SmrtyCakes' clan name. SmrtyCakes in the bottom right. He seems to be our tomato Protoss, and Art of Turtle, our green Zerg player. We're on Impulsion, a map by BidEB that's based on Impetus. So that's a map by Veek7. It goes back a ways because Impetus itself was based on a different Veek7 map called Repulsion from the OG days of Starcraft. I mean, Cosmonarchy 1v1. Great times. But better times now because it's super epic. 2-gate start here for Smarty. What is that gateway placement? We might never know. Quaseth pool a little bit under halfway complete now, so it is going to be Kagrant pool Larvosk here for AOT. Dialed in build actually on 7 Droleth. This is, I mean, he's just finished his 8th, but you know, to get all that stuff started before your 8th one even hatches is pretty legit on the speed. And he's not saving any larva for when this pool pops exactly, unless maybe he saves this one. It looks like he's starting to now. So I'm gonna guess that this is gonna be like 1 Quas, 1 Zeth, and he's gonna end up scouting with the Zeths. But this is not a 4-spawn map. You don't have to scout multiple things. It's just cross-spawn, you know, top left, bottom right. Legionnaire first is also interesting because the Legionnaire is a very nimble Protoss unit. Not something that you typically see leveraged en masse against Zerg, but I did catch some practice games that Smarty was a part of, that other Protosses have been a part of, where I've actually noticed a lot more Legionnaire usage. So that's really interesting. And you know what? I love AOT's instincts here to go for a macro hatch, not just because I feel like people make Larvosk a bit too often sometimes. It's very vulnerable. It requires a lot of Vespi and it delays your teching for that reason. But the macro hatch here on this map, I mean, it's kind of a far distance to travel. So this is a nice little anchor of Kagra, you know, our version of creep, between the bases. And, you know, let you build up a defensive position around that. Zeths are going to start knocking on the door, and SmrtyCakes will attempt to defend that. He's got an Ecclesiast out to keep his shields high versus melee units, so a bit of a standoff now. While we are standing off, I can let you guys know that Smarty has been on the grind, looking for a lot of victories where possible. And I wouldn't count him out of this series despite the seeding difference. AOT has been a little bit out of the game comparatively, but he did start playing a lot before this series. So I know he is in reasonable form. We can kind of tell that based on his build. Like I said, it was pretty dialed in. So I appreciate that. 3-gate into Lattice with a Matrix for anti-drop, anti-air inside the mineral line. The Matrix has a similar passive to the Ecclesiast where you shoot a unit, shields get healed around the unit's target. So then the Ecclesiast attacks the Zeth, the Legionnaire gets shields back. Same thing happens to the Matrix, but it also happens to units around the Matrix itself. It's like the shield resonance happens in both spots. So Smarty's just being run around here, delayed on his attack. If you guys are wondering what that little orb effect is as well, the Legionnaire leaving an on-hit effect that then other Legionnaires that are allied to it can transport to immediately, teleport to, as long as they're within about 3 weapon range. Which, you know, is kind of a vague unit of measurement, but the Quas has, what, 4? Yeah, 4 weapon range, so there you go. That's how much. It's 1 weapon range less than a Quas. Vorvs are on the way. That's what the Vornath was for, of course. So we won't end up seeing Nathacores immediately, but oh, he actually goes straight into the calc here. Okay, so I was going to say he had some gas banked. I was wondering what he would do with that. Art of Turtle is known for his Nathacore usage a lot more. Those are flying Zerg units out of the pool when you upgrade it. Oh, he actually attacks his own Vorv by mistake there. Vorvs have long been one of the... Oh my god, he did it again. He actually straight up killed his unit there. That's not good. Vorvs have long been a counter, stylistically, to the sort of Ecclesiast Zealot army, but they do typically have a timer. And versus Legionnaires, I think they're just a little bit better. But you have way more Legionnaires than you do have Zealots because they're cheaper. This is all part of the plan here, I think, from Smarty's POV. No Expo, yeah, a lot of Droleth being made, and he can start saturating that mineral line that has been a little bit under. Yeah, there's the expand coming. So we've got an Ovaleth halfway complete. AOT very crafty with drops. His Calcure Lake is done. Is he going to go for a Lyrilisc Flood? Is he going to be going for Calcs? These are 2 questions that we need the answers to kind of soon because the army is threatening again. Is he even going to bother? Okay, he does put down the hatch. He starts to make some Lyriliscs. We're just barely on the edge here. Manifolds, when they attack, they project armor pen boost to everybody around them. That means that Smarty is going to have a little bit more durability versus the Vorv. You know, he's just going to swat them down much quicker. There's not so many Vorvs in general, though. So limited impact here. Big problem is, I mean, it just feels like Smarty's army is a really good spot. As long as not a lot of Lyrilisks are here. Lyrilisks have bounce damage, sort of like Mutas. Vorvs are being made up on the cliff. I mean, yeah, I guess Smarty doesn't really know what the status of up the cliff is, so could be dangerous for him to walk in. I think actually AOT is going to be fine. I was a little bit worried. Smarty goes for the Nexus here and the Natural for himself, and he's added more Lattice and more Gateway. He's adding a second Matrix as well. Definitely worried about the potential Calculusk switch. And here comes a big egress from AOT. He does this so often, man. He makes the hatch at the Natural, and then he just all-ins for a little bit, making nothing but units. A bunch of Zeths just got made behind. There's a humongous Zerg flood, and the Vorvs are slowing things down. The Lyrilisks are going to tear anything apart that's within their range for long enough. The Ovalov comes out, but it was a fake out, or maybe just a scout. Regardless, Smarty falling back to his Nexus, which does not have anything around it for defense. He's going to need to make a stand here, and I just can't see him doing that yet. But the Ecclesiasts might keep their Legionnaires alive for a good amount of time here, but I have a feeling that as those claws start to really lay into them, we don't even really need Lyrilisks here. We only have the one. It's pretty low, actually, but it doesn't look like the Legionnaires are going to finish it off. Yeah, look at that. It looks like the critical mass of Ecclesiasts kind of forced him away. Manifold's also got a durability buff recently, so they're a little bit longer living, longer lasting. And AOT moved out without making any Lyras. That was going to be his big DPS there, is if he could get a lot more of these suckers right here. Instead, he's going to make a lot of circuits, see what he can do on the defensive maneuver. He's making a lot of Vorvs. He can absolutely make more Lyras when he has the minerals, but they are pretty mineral intensive. He's going to run in and take down that first circuit. He's got a couple more coming. Oh, no, it stays alive with just a little bit of health. Well, I think as soon as he looked at that concave, he immediately bailed out. A couple more Lyras have been made, but not really a lot of damage. The damage is actually going to come from the front line here for the Zerg army, and that's easily countered by the Ecclesiast. That's one of the reasons why that tidal wave of Zerg kind of crashed upon the shore and then just got, you know, bathed in blood. Smarty's next round has mostly been Manifold Legionnaire. He's really pumping Manifold Legionnaire. He's starting to get some Zealots in now with an Ardent coming. Feels like it's a little bit late on the Zealots, to be honest. Could have had those a lot sooner. Now the Lyrilisks are going to start peppering from afar. He has no units out here. I would love a bit of a surround onto this position. He still has no splash damage. No idols out of those lattices. A lot of Manifolds, though. Looks like it's still enough to send AOT packing initially. Zerg has a worker lead now. Bulwark at the Natural is going to be huge for those defensive moves. And are we going to see an extra base? Or, I mean, the Legionnaires are still monitoring all of these potential expansion sites. Tier 2 has begun for AOT. Now, just before this Tribunal, the Tier 2 was patched to make much faster for Zerg, a little bit faster for Terran, but no cost reduction. So AOT just spent, 450 minerals and 900 gas on his Iris. What is he going to do now? He could have made a lot of units. He could have made a lot of production. He goes for the Matraval Nest. So I'm guessing Convalisks, maybe some Vilgoricors. The first one spreads a bunch of Rillarokor Broodspawn units everywhere. The second one does that a little bit later in life, but for the most part just takes incoming damage and then releases a mini Carapace Swarm, which is like Dark Swarm from StarCraft 1, shielding units underneath it from ranged attack. Zeths are spotting that Legionnaires are patrolling here for those extra bases, and a third base is on the way for Smarty. He's actually the first one to get there. A Clarion is about to pop out of this Ardent, and he's starting to filter in some Positrons. I guess he only has one and some idols, though. Third base sighted here by AOT. I don't like that he's trying to attack right now, though. I feel like this is a mistake. First of all, he doesn't have most of his units with him, it feels like. I don't mind him picking individual targets here and there like that. That's a fine use of the Lyrilisks, although typically you don't see individual units just out there in a silly position. A brave Legionnaire, but not the smartest one, and natural selection. Yeah, there's the convolisks in the production menu there. On the way. I suppose from a defensive position, this doesn't look too bad for AOT. He ends up making a lot of Droleth and ends up making a lot of Orvs. His Lyras are still kind of hunting around looking for any old thing that they can do. I am a little bit concerned that his army is just going to get run down, but he's certainly doing what he can, abusing the mobility of the Lyralisk. It does just move way faster than most of the Protoss ball is going to. He's not quite at a number where he can, you know, one-shot manifolds or whatever, but he's doing stuff, right? Like, this is annoying for Smarty to deal with. He's floating a lot of money. We can see that. Also, the same is true for AOT right now. He ended up ordering some Matroleths. I really want him to get some more bases going. Zeth's coming. A little bit unorthodox to see so many minerals and so few macro hatches. Production tab starts to really swell here for Smarty as he adds a bunch of static defense and a gateway at that third base. It's always good to get it. Production and body blocking. Found all those idle workers, can send them to the natural. Engram coming up here as well. I suppose spend your money somehow. Same is true for AOT, who ends up capping his geysers. Pretty expensive operation to do. And making a macro hatch. Still sticking it out on 2 base. He's cleared out some of the Legionnaires here. He wants that third. Oh, he needs to cycle away from it. Smarty has not noticed it. Did he cancel those Matroleths out? It looks like it. Yeah, I don't see them over here, so I guess he decided against it. I saw a Hamster versus Kasuga practice game recently, and Hamster just kept infesting Vibrances with the Matroleth. It was pretty good. Definitely one of my favorite PvZ watches recently. That was just streamed to us. Brilliant. I think Smarty was actually obsing that game, so he had some ideas coming away from how to deal with that. Now, the Lyralist count is pretty high. The Positron count is starting to get pretty good too, though. I mean, we do have a decent number. It's a little bit more than you would want. AOT going for the Kegrelist tech. Maybe Almac. Depends on what he wants out of that. But the Alkagiteth is indeed on the way. Kind of pivoting around for now. The Convolisks have yet to actually find purchase in a fight. They're very slow units, so got to exercise some caution when using them. No 4th base in sight for Smarty, but only now is the 3rd base actually finished, and he goes right for the gas here. Which does make some sense. Needs a lot more Droleth. Is he going to bite the bullet and just make a Droleth army now? No. Convol instead, knowing that he needs a little bit more. Down goes the Legionnaire. This looks like it could end very poorly for Smarty, depending on how his angle of attack is. He needs to itemize all of his AoE onto this front line and kind of take retreating paths. The Clarion is going to be easily focused down if he's not careful. Doesn't look like AOT cares much about it right now. And it is giving so many shields split over to everybody else. The Convolisks are not doing nearly enough damage, and the Lyralisks are just ignoring the Clarion. They need to right-click it. Oh, it's like using Scourge on an Observer in PvZ and StarCraft 1. AOT should definitely know about that. Oh my god, it was still a pretty close fight at the end. You can see just how low the Protoss army actually is at the end of it all. You imagine without the extra shield power of the Clarion in that fight, it would give you so much less to work with. But AOT has no more damage coming. Individual Zephyr Cores are not going to make much of a difference here. The Convolisks themselves do not do that much damage. The Vilgora Cores might convince Smarty to go away the other direction. I guess the Vilgora Cores do add some damage eventually, and that's the thing. The Vilgora Cores combining with those Vilgora Cores is pretty good because the Carapace form will shield them from things like the Ecclesiast and the Manifolds doing damage to them. But he needs to send all of his army in the same direction. Smarty is not done yet. He charges forward. AOT has a humongous bank. He makes 11 Avigralisks. I mean, I guess. I don't think that's going to exactly turn the tide now. Remaxing with the army. It's looking like that's all we wrote here for this 3rd base. AOT's going to have to give it up. A couple of his eggs going down as well. He ends up making them into Gosvoleths. I mean, I guess he just wants to spend his money. He's like, damn, I have 4K minerals. I could have had a lot more. Adds those macro hatches. We still don't have a 4th base for Smarty behind this. So there's limited potential for a comeback, but I don't think the Evigs are going to do what AOT actually needs. Remember, a couple of them, I think 3 of them went kaput down there in the third base. Now, the scorch threats are up. If Smarty attacks into the natural, it could be pretty bad. I just don't see how we're going to get to the point where this army gets crushed by what AOT has. A lot of the Vigorlisks, they still attack while moving. They just don't do as much concentrated fire. It's more like crowd control fire. They shoot up to 4 targets at once. But I don't know. I feel like the Positrons are enough here. We've got Zealots for good damage in general. Yeah, the Vigorlisks are pretty tanky boys, but I just don't think that this is going to be enough. Reinforcements come out, and Smarty will drive this force back. Unitary Union halfway complete. A little bit of tech never hurt nobody. And AOT has gone into Tier 2, but he does not have the units that he actually needs. Lyrilisks are on the way. I mean, it's a decent number for good damage, but I just don't see how they don't die to all the Positrons. Look at the Positron count. Ridiculous. Witness with the army. He spots the Burrow Droleth. No hope there. AOT once again trying to spend down his float. I mean, look at the money he's got despite having only 2 bases. 5 more Vilgs. A Droleth over there getting bought. And look at that. Base number 4 is indeed coming in the bottom left. Looks like we're going to have a little bit more than that soon as well. And an attempt from AOT to break out. Will he finally break the Clarion? He almost did. He just needed to focus it down. Yeah, his army is split, and it's going to get chowed on. GG. AOT took the bait, went for the fast Tier 2, and exactly as Shopkeeper Dog predicted in chat one time, he was not able to get it over the line. He did not know what exactly to do with all that tech. No one man should have all that power, not even Zerg here. SmrtyCakes takes game 1. Ladies and gentlemen, game 2. Art of Turtle versus SmrtyCakes goes to Corrosion. Of course, that first map by BiddyB, of course, was Impulsion. Now we go to a different BiddyB map. Gonna be a good time. Gonna be a good time. Pool into Kagrant here. AOT gonna be maybe a little bit more aggro this time around, and it is going to be that gateway. There's that secondary gateway, but it's actually not in the same position that it was last time. I did see Smarty in chat say that it's the anti-6 pool gateway placement that he did on Impulsion. Interesting choice. I listen, AOT's got that dog in him. He will do nutty strats, but 6 pool versus Protoss goes back and forth as this. Is it viable? Is it viable? I don't know. Like, is it good? Is it bad? Is it easy to deal with? Do you even need building placement to deal with it? Like, I've never really seen it work super well versus a top Protoss. So it'll be interesting if it shows up later on in this set and we get to see a new look on it. But AOT just making some Zeths. A little bit more delayed than a 6 pool would be. Obviously with way more potential to macro out of it since he's got the larva. And that 2-gate start with the Legionnaire open is going to once again be what AOT's up against. Smarty going for a fast 3-gate, and his Legionnaire is leaving the building already. 4 Zeth's going to be the initial scouting point, and we have a pair of Quas here as well. Last time around, it was Hatch at the ramp. AOT looks like he's thinking about doing the same thing this time around. Oh, that Legionnaire almost getting bopped immediately. This is where people in the chat can cheer SmrtyCakes on by saying, "Hell yeah, Smarty! Don't let that Legionnaire die, Smarty." He's got 3 more, though, so even if it does die, it doesn't matter. Linked up with the 3rd pair of Zeths, and now they're all coming in. A tour de force. Lattice is going to be sighted. The Legionnaires charging forward. Zeths are going to pop soon. A lot of Legionnaires. Man, this is a big flood of them. 4 pairs of Quas coming. We do have the hatch at the ramp, indeed. AOT seems to like that. You can't say that, Jaculinsky. It's not a purifier. Play him like a campaign mission, Smarty. Yeah. That's what we like to see. Now, this is an old school move. This is not what you would initially expect when you think about Zerg. The hatch at the ramp was... That goes back to when we were still playing hatch over Larvosk. And we would put the hatch at the ramp and then expand later. Then Krankendow came up on the space and he was like, hey, Larvosk first is better. And just mathematically proved everybody was being silly. Vornath on the way, so we will end up seeing that tech from AOT, just like in game 1. Honestly, I feel like if he just sticks to you know, the Vornath into something more immediately useful. Hydrith, Zork. I don't think he needs to go for tier 2. I like the idea of tier 2. It wasn't a, like, he could have paired it with more stuff and still been able to win from that position potentially, but that was a little bit of a trip over your own rake. Smarty! Oh, found the 3 workers. Okay, it's all good. Not a noob. Got that Nexus on the way. I love that he spreads out the big scouting pattern here with the Legionnaires, confirms no hidden base shenanigans, which means he should be ready for the sheer number of Zerg units that are vomiting out of his ramp and across the map, potentially. Falls all the way back home. In the process, some of these Legionnaires will, you know, in theory, they should have ran into the Zerg army as they were moving across, and they don't. And so AOT ends up falling back. His Lake is on the way. He is going for the same opener as Game 1. Here's the kicker. Smarty's gone for more idols. Faster idols instead of the manifolds. Now, I think this is a great choice, but it does come down to unit positioning. AOT can still find a victorious move, and if he attacks with a bunch of Lyrilisks, well, those are less susceptible to the idol splash anyway. I think we found a Bitty tile, guys. Don't tell him. Tell him, though. Hatch a quarter of the way to completion at the natural. Ooh, SmrtyCakes found his own ecclesiast and said, no. An attack clicked him. Unbelievable. Now, the embassy is more important here, I think, because that witness was pretty helpful for Smarty earlier. Now, unfortunately, his whole army is in a bit of a line. Oh, no, this is horrible. He needs to double back immediately. Zerg army munching on it before the Lyrialists even really come out in full force. There's only like 3 of them over here. Gateway out in front. We have static defense of the natural for the Protoss. That's something that we did not see on Impulsion for a little bit of time. Oh, even that catch on the 3 units here, pretty dire. I guess it looks like the Ecclesiast gives his life for the robots, which is pretty funny, but Manifolds will double back. Try to mass up over here where they can. Yeah, feels to me like... Oh, no, man, this is really dire. He's getting a lot of focus fire down to those Manifolds. And immediately, all of those units go down. The flood of units is incredible from Turtle. This man made so many Zeph. The gateway goes down with no cancel. The bulwark is torched. Zealots are staying alive for as long as they possibly can. The workers are starting to battle Nebelheim style, but GG has to be called, and AOT had way more in the tank for that as well. Look at his bank. Absolutely ridiculous. And Smarty has just been sundered in Game 2. It's funny, they ended up taking their own map picks, taking each other's map picks. So we're all tied up going into game number 3. SmrtyCakes in the bottom left of Tesseract. In the bottom right, no, it's Quasar Quartet. In the bottom right of Quasar Quartet, we have Art of Turtle. This is going to be a green Zerg versus an eggshell blue Protoss. Eggshell blue is a really nice color, in my opinion. I don't really think of eggshells when I see it, but it is a really nice color. Does anybody know the etymology of the eggshell blue name for a color? I can't think of it. I can't think of it. And yes, green is a good color for turtles. AOT is turtle colored. Makes a lot of sense now. Hydrith opener. AOT has changed that up every game. Every game. I mean, obviously that last game was... It was basically the same thing, but it was just a tighter attack timing. It was still a slightly different opener in terms of what he exactly chose to do. This, though, is just... He won with that last game, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go Hydrith here. Let's see what he wants to do to navigate this, because I haven't really seen Hydrith openers work as well as they once did. So we'll have to find... Oh. What's up, Jesse? Man, Jesse is so cool. Did you guys know that without Jesse, we still wouldn't know how to select a SCSI in the lobby? That's so sick, man. Jesse's so cool. Jesse is also on the precipice of releasing a pretty mega CrownLink update where you just won't be able to lag anymore, guys. It's just not possible. You just can't lag. Can't lag anymore. Jesse's outlawing lag. Unbelievable. Absolutely stupendous. People in the chat are telling me, in fact, that you can find eggshell blue eggs if they are robin eggs and other birds. So there you have it. Now we know. And here I thought that was a psyop by the big egg. Bird toss. Yes, that's correct. Bird toss. Instead of pro toss, it's pro vids, like corvids. Pro bird. I'm pretty pro bird, I would say. Legionnaire is moving towards the top left. This is a 4-spawn map, as you can probably tell by the scout. Unfortunately for AOT, his Droleth has been hooked on by a Legionnaire. And of course, Smarty is going to be following this guy. Now, will the scouting pattern indicate to Smarty that it wasn't in top left? I'm not sure, but 3 Hydras are moving up. Oh, yes, they will be hunting him down. I feel like this is a kind of a waste. Wouldn't you want the Hydras to move up here? But I guess he's worried about the other combat units that he might end up seeing. He's still coming in. Warden is in by the Nexus, and we do have the Kabbalist on the way from that road gallery. So that one Legionnaire could do some damage. It is moving to the bottom right. I mean, you could definitely tell based on the Hydra movement that's where those units were at. Now, this Legionnaire is going to be brought almost down to death, but the Kabbalist is coming. And with the Warden, oh, wow, he just lost the Hydra full stop. Man, he didn't even need the Kabbalist. He's fine with just the Legionnaires. He did not dive in with that one Scouter. This is a weird game. This is not what exactly I thought would happen with these openers here. The 2-gate Rogue is an interesting strat. It's definitely something that Aoud has done a lot as Protoss. Moonlighting as Protoss for a little bit. The Legionnaires are just not going to be it. And will AOT notice? Oh, yeah. He built the Opaleth! Oh, what a god. Still gets 1 kill. He might be able to get away with a second. Yeah, indeed he will. Ooh, wait, one more? No, not able to turn around for the teleport. So only gets the 2. The way that the Kabbalist works, by the way, is when it decloaks, it can, to attack, it can teleport, and it deals bonus damage. So then it does like a Legionnaire-style teleport there. Pretty good unit in that respect. And obviously is pretty good for one-shotting workers versus Zerg or Protoss. Or a Skozy, I think. I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure a Skozy workers also get one shot by it. I don't think people make Kabbalists too much versus them, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Hey, maybe we'll see that later on in this tournament. Vagrant. We saw a Charlatan earlier, indeed. And we indeed also have Ecclesiasts, a Legionnaire. It's all great. It's all wonderful. Ski-backed has been completed. The hatch is halfway complete as well down here in the natural. I'd say AOT is in a pretty good spot. He is making Mass Avaleth, so he's doubling down on this position. And he's got it out in the front. And the Legionnaire at least scouts that there are Bactals coming. Like, very, very likely that's Bactal. So, you know, it gives him some heads up there of what to expect. I think he's got a fine position for his... You know, he's got lots of Legionnaires to jump right on them. Vagrants are going to take a while to be brought down. Ecclesiasts are easy to get smoked by Bactals. I guess I'm a little bit more so worried that we've got all of these extra Avaleths being made. And I know that means AOT wants to do some kind of big drop. He just doesn't have the combat unit count to really make that work, I feel. Unless the Avaleths are just going to be here for scouting. In which case that also feels like it's a bit expensive, but... Hey, I'm willing to check it out. This map has seen a number of revisions from way back when. It used to be that it had an inland third where you could not attack it. You had to come through this bridge area to attack it. There's like a bridge and then another bridge that you had to cross over to it. Now there's open ground over here on the horizontal spot, which means taking your third base is a little bit more of an interesting dilemma for people to have on this map. They can go, in this particular spawn configuration, you'd probably typically see 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on your position there. So, you know, this base over here is a pretty solid one to end up taking, and it does have double gas, whereas the default third, if you will, is probably a little bit more difficult to hold. So we'll find out in a moment if that will even be necessary. Smarty looking to take that Avaleth down. It is absorbing initial pressure. A lot of damage dealt, but Bactals initially kind of send them packing. One circuit is going to help out here as well versus all of the Hydras. I love that just hold position for the most part. That was pretty sick. AOT just kind of told them to get lost, kick rocks. Nexus is done, but no workers there just yet. Big worker transfer now coming. Love to see it. I think that's a big deal when you see players nail the worker transfers in general. Obviously, it could have been a little bit faster in that case to be nailed, but you guys know what I mean. We didn't see Ramen do that earlier versus Cannoli, and I was mentioning it, so give Smarty his due. He managed to do that. Swamp on the way. We are going to see Tetzoricors in this matchup then. A little bit less powerful versus Protoss without the armor pen that the Fan of Teeth had once upon a time, which is a passive that when you attack the Teth, or indeed the other unit that has it is the Zarkavricor, big flying Gorgorcore mutation. Anytime you attack that unit, you get hit back with a retaliatory strike if you're within a small minimum range. It did have 3 armor pen once upon a time. Now it has 0, so you do need to pair it with armor rend. And that is going to require a little bit more coordination from the Zerg players if they want to get that DPS back. And the hatch is on the way for base number 3. He's actually taking the default one as well. I love this Ovaleth position. Just kind of watching out. He has a little bit of vision over the choke point here, should his opponent try to flank up north. Does he have his other... Yeah, his other Ovaleth is still waiting in the mineral line here in case the Kabbalist run-by occurs, because he has abandoned detection over in this position. I guess if you hold this with like a Khaz'trith or something, which also does static detection, you'd be pretty fine. But SmrtyCakes has done a lot of recurring damage to AOT just by making 1 Kabbalist and having the tech for it still. Third base is done. Protoss massing up on the ridge. Not an attack force that I think can really dive into any one position. I guess if it bypasses everything and goes straight for the natural, it could. But the army is very close. So now it looks like Smarty is getting ready to attack forward. This is something that AOT preempts with his movement. Immediately focusing down 1 Tetzoricor is pretty good. How many units can you escape with is the question. Damn, a lot of these going down, unfortunately. Manifolds dropping like flies as if they didn't just get a durability boost. But I do like the focus fire attempt there. Ardent Authorities are on the way. He's adding 1 more. And I'm guessing he wants to make something else. I would love a Crucible for this whole sequence, but it looks like he's some gas away from being able to do that. Zorka Shroud halfway complete, and 11 Hydras on the way, around a Droleth behind it. Clearly, AOT is looking for that little economic tempo, and he also wants to see if he can maybe establish a sort of containment for Smarty. Ardent number 3 is on the way, and we will see those Positrons. I'd love to see a Clarion as well, if he can afford it. And it feels like he can, but he might be busy doing other things. Now, the Teps are busy on the other side of the Hydra wall. This is not a great position for him to be in. I'd love to see him even, like, micro the Ovaleth to load them up and get them on the front line. His Hydras are starting to collapse immediately. Only now, halfway through the battle, are the Tetzoricors being sundered in any capacity, providing any sort of impact. And Smarty just kind of dials backwards and snipes those units down. So the Hydras need to run for it, and the Bactylisk will not waddle away fast enough, let's be real. Ovaleth still kind of being peppered down by random manifold fire. Looks like it will just narrowly stay alive as those Bactyls are cleaned up. A lot of circuits are going to be made, but feels very dire. Bactylisks are being made in good number, but this does look like Smarty is just about ready to run away with this one at the last second. Down go those Kagrins before they can make into anything useful. The Hydras are trying to buy some time for the Bactyl mutations, but units are already on top, and the decollision sells him up the river. I think AOT just has to concede defeat after that one. I can't imagine him ever breaking this ball of Protoss, getting right in the middle of it all, the Ecclesiast shielding and negating that Bactylisk damage anyway. GG, Smarty takes another round, and you know, he was the underdog coming into this, but he only needs 1 more. AOT, on the other hand, is going to need to mount quite the comeback to stay in it. Let's see what happens in Game 4. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are on for map 4 of our best of 5 between Art of Turtle and SmrtyCakes. And we have the Palatinate Blue Protoss in the bottom left is going to be Smarty. AOT rocking green once more. Our Zerg going pool first here. Is that a 6 pool? I think that actually is a 6 pool. Hold on. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to come down to this. If AOT can make the 6 pool happen, he continues on in the tournament. This is a Macroglia. This is a 2-spawn map with some bitty tiles of vision. I don't know what's going on with that. That's very funny to me. And at least it's symmetrical, so there's like a spot over here. Oh, and the ramp. The ramp is broken. Oh, bitty tiles. Smarty's going to scout this out and see 6 very, very angry Zethicors heading his direction. But he says this is the anti-6 pool gateway placement, so he should be fine here, right, guys? He actually needs to kill the scribe because it's going to get in his way. Let's see if he does it. No, so far not happening. Okay, now it looks like he's just going to right-click around it now. He's got that Larvosk on the way. Still mining Vespene. That's a little curious. Warden on the way here as well. Oh yeah, Smarty points out in chat this is the first time he scouted with a worker. It's true. It is true. I wonder if AOT feels some way about that. Now the sets are going to pour on in. The Warden is mostly done. Very small window of opportunity to kill any workers here. One of them has gone down. He's starting to heckle the Warden a little bit, but that's not what he wants to focus on here. He needs to kill as many workers as possible. And then, rather than even bother dipping here, I think you might just consider saying, screw it, I'm going to keep killing. But he does end up keeping a decent number of Zeths alive, and he did end up popping 4 scribes. So, not as bad as we... Oh my god, he goes for the Hydrith Den follow-up. Alright. Alright, buddy. Hydrith Den follow-up. Wild. So, for those who are wondering why I'm kind of freaking out about this, you usually want to conserve as much of your Vespene as you can, because you want to be building a lot of mineral bank coming up after a 6 pool. And so, you know, then your Vespene is usually used for Larvosks in the early game. He spent it on a tech option that requires Vespene for the heavy hitter Hydra. And he's going to see if he can follow up with that. I mean, it's ballsy. It is ballsy. And I don't think the Legionnaires are going to be able to very cleanly enter in to this position. Some more Zeths are on the way. Drilling here is going to be fine. I really don't think that the Legionnaires are going to get much done. So, yeah, especially as more Zeths hatch, he can just go back to mining here. He has not killed a single worker, unfortunately. Ooh, and yep, there it is. The little runaround is going to clear the last guy. It's a little bit hard for AOT to get back to mining, unfortunately, so maybe that did a little bit more damage than we were initially anticipating. By the way, this map does have a feature in the middle. It has temples that are placed close to these bases in the middle, and you can harvest resources here and return them faster than default because the temple has a bigger collision box, so ends up being a pretty good neutral town center there for you. Also as a power field for Protoss players. They can go here and build a gateway if they want to. I do have a feeling that's going to be pretty imba if anybody tries to do like a center gate. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's an easy thing to scout versus Protoss. But nobody's picked up on it yet. Nobody knows that the temple is also a power field, apparently. So, Legionnaire Ecclesiast is going to be the play once again for Smarty. His lattice is added a little bit later, and Zeth Hydra with some Quas is going to be the composition to push in. Versus small numbers of Ecclesiasts, I can see this working out pretty nicely. Does he just pounce on the scribe immediately? AOT is ready to go, it looks like. Oh, he's actually trying to catch the Legionnaire exiting instead. Easy kill, that's what he wants to go for. I mean, the scribe is pretty easy too, but he just wants to attack the military here, which makes sense. Now, the Hydras are here to range down the structures if Smarty plays too defensively. Like the classic Hydra busts. Now, this still looks pretty good for the Protoss. I'm not too unhappy about this position if I'm in Smarty's shoes. Yeah, I mean, the Legionnaires are just cleaning house over here versus all the Hydras. AOT is going to have to cycle back. He slowed down the Nexus timing. He forced a lot more units and a bit more of a defensive posture. And the hatch is done here in the natural, and we will end up seeing a whole buttload of Izira cores come out now. I was wondering about that mineral bank and what AOT would be doing. Now, okay, if Smarty attacks in a disorganized way, I can see AOT once again kind of extending play, and it'll be this ping-pong tug-of-war move going on here in this 4th match. Okay, well, the Izira cores are out, at least in some number. He's going to make attacking into this position a bit harder. Gateway number 3 on the way. Has the lattice born of any robots? It looks like just a couple of manifolds for those automata enjoyers out there. And there it is, yes. Once again, just crisscross applesauce. I'm rubber, you're glue. Every attack I give to you bounces off me, then goes back to you. That's basically what just happened. Goes all the way back, and they just agreed to play out the rest of the game. Okay, all right, guys. Tied on workers. Tech developing for our Zerg, and the Nexus will eventually come up here. That was a funny sequence of events, in my opinion. There's something a little bit cheeky about that. Going for Vorvs here. I mean, this is a deadly-looking Zerg army. I am a little bit worried for Smarty's position. Because if his forces don't end up getting to a really solid, like, anti-surround, basically, I think he's just going to be toasted. The Legionnaires also are just more brittle than anything else. No Zealots are here with this army for like as a durability anchor. And he kind of scouted with his whole army. So AOT had an opportunity to maybe chase him down. No, he's just going to go all the way back home. Nexus is on the way. I guess it's going to be like Vorv Skiback. Okay, Vorv Bactyl is going to be pretty legit, though. Macro Hatch. He'll add the Bactyls as soon as minerals allow. He's got plenty of Vespene for it. Those Legionnaires starting to move out to see if they can get a scout. I like the single Legionnaire scout into the enemy base a lot more than sending the units out all at once. You know, I just don't think that works out very well. I feel like with this coming and going that Smarty's been doing, he's at least he's like kind of conditioned AOT to be a little bit afraid of a move out. But when you're feeling like this from the Zerg, like the only thing you would ask for is more Bactyls. Like if your army could just be transplanted to the other side of the map, that would be really nice. That's the only thing AOT could really be asking for more than what he's got right now. Very good economy, great tech as well, adding a ton more Bactyls, and looks like he's going to be setting up for that third base faster than his opponent, although Smarty's maybe thinking about doing it at the same time. He just has nothing going on economic development wise. Look, he can definitely transfer a little bit of workers here, but his worker count in general is just a little bit too low. And he's going to be taking the 9 o'clock for his third base. AOT instead just going to be taking the default. Calci Relay coming, okay. Well, AOT's really taking his time to respond to the presence of his opponent. He's going to tech all the way up to Lyrilisk and see if he can just run him over. This does pose a problem, though. Ardent authorities are on the way. And you know what those are going to give way to. Positrons, Clarions. Smarty's ready to build something else there as well. Yeah, no third base just yet for him. He's actually going to deplete his main minerals a little bit faster than you would initially expect. 1,500 minerals, by the way, instead of 2,000. A bit of a bygone era in terms of the minerals that you typically get. I see Adam in the chat. Yo, Adam. I agree. It is nice to see more Legionnaire usage. I've been really digging the compositions that Smarty's been building. I just feel like he needs some more time to get up to a good number here versus what AOT's got. This does look very Zerg favored right now, but we are eventually going to see the macro, surely. Oh, just before he can put down the Nexus here, though. AOT cleans it up with the Zeth. Sims patrolling in the bottom right, making sure nothing is happening over there. He seems to have just ignored this base entirely. I wonder what's up with that. A lot of larvae. And so, a lot of Droleth. Yeah, we're going up to like 9 larvae per 14 seconds. It's pretty fast production rate there. Another attempt at an expansion, getting stymied by a Zeth. And Eskagants are on the way to cap those ridges. So AOT's going to have more Vespene income pretty soon. I love the just sort of random flocks of Zeths moving across. I think that's really good. I also love the Manifold Idol here. It's just a couple of units to withstand an airdrop or some sort of air attack. Stacked units. I dig it. Zets are coming in. They'll pick one Ecclesiast. That's kind of cool, I guess. AOT's funny. He just does some funny things. He's massing up a pretty huge army behind this, though. I'd be a little bit worried. Still not able to develop into that third base. A bunch of idle workers in the natural. Smarty is just developing. He's got a crucible. He's got more gateways. I mean, he needs to get on those workers, though. Oh, I see. Artisan over here at 6 o'clock. All right. He's going to get a little bit of extra Vespine. Could have a lot more extra minerals, though. We sent all those workers that were idle in that natural. Droleth hunted down at 12 o'clock. Means no easy fourth base. It's kind of surplus to requirements now, surely. The Protoss are going to get pelted trying to leave their own natural. It feels a little academic. AOT is just going to pound that front gate. He's actually decided to go for a hold position here and ignore the static defense for some time while he sets up with his Bactyls. He's sending a buttload of Zeths and a couple more IZ cores as well. Look at this. And there's Tier 2 just got started in the process. His Vords just sat there and absorbed that damage. Man, he's got so many units, he doesn't even know where they all are. No, guys, we will not add F2 to Cosmonic. He doesn't know why he's making positrons and not a Cantors. Oh, sorry, that was Smarty's second wife. Dino Man? There's base number 4, found by the sim. I don't think AOT cares about that, but he might send like one unit to go deal with that. He's just yeah. So Smarty forgot all these workers, but AOT forgot all these units. So who's the real pranker? You know what I mean? All right, let's see if he can break out. He's got a lot of zealots. The Lyrilisks are doing a great job eating through those initial shields. The Clarion surely will be focused down here. Oh, I guess it'll just be pushed away. Tries to dive back in, but the bounce damage is going to be ambiently enough to take it out, I feel like. Does a really good job to keep those units alive for way longer than they had any right to be any other way. But they will still be devoured by the Zerg. And GG LOL, Smarty's like, okay, you were just playing with me. That is game 4. We go to 5 games, guys. A little bit of an underwhelming ending, but at least we got to see a lot of blood at the end. GG, AOT ties it up, and we go one more time. Homies, homies, homies. Game 5 is now on your screens, and SmrtyCakes is rocking back the Palatinate blue color, just like last game, but he wants a different outcome. At one point was leading the series, actually at 2 different points was leading the series, took the first game and the third one. Well, maybe the odd numbers will favor him. We're in game 5, and AOT, the green Zerg here, in the top right, cross spawns on Tesseract. Going to be an interesting set of games for sure for the history books. Art of Turtle, a StarCraft 1 aficionado, one of the longest lasting members of North American StarCraft 1 since the remastered era, I believe. Has been with it for many, many years. I guess longest lasting is technically a misnomer. If you've been around for before remastered, all right, you beat him. But he's been around the block. He's been playing competitive stuff, and pretty good. He's a pretty good player, and I like him in Cosmo too. Maybe I even like him better in Cosmo. I wonder if there's a bias there. Gateways are on the way for Mr. Smarty, and he will be running it back with that 6-pool placement yet again. You missed my $100 dono, Alex. Yeah, your $100 dono. Yeah, your. Technically, the $10 dono did not get caught by the VOD for that, but there was a $10 dono that said, tell him it was $100, so he has to match it. And so I very obviously said, wow, $100. And then we got actually $100 from my brother. That was pretty good. Thanks, 3Crow. And there it is. Hatcheros got the ramp. AOT is going to be doing that yet again. His initial set of Zeths are scouting out the possible spawn locations while the Legionnaire moves to the bottom right. It will be a 3-gate. This is a very, standard fair Protoss operation here. Yeah, hatch out the ramp has been done every single time by AOT, so not really a surprise that he's doing it this time around. See if it affords any openings for Smarty. One thing I've noticed about Smarty's build is that, with the exception of that Kabbalist game, he hasn't really gone for anything that gives him a super early timing. It's just sort of like, I'm going to kind of chill, build up a ton of units, and then move across the map and see what I can do to you. Oh, AOT could have killed that Legionnaire if he used his Quaz. Now, these Monuments of Sin in the middle of the map, it gives you a little bit of something to play around. You can see it really truncates these pathways, and you can't go through them either. So, at least I actually, for all I know, Zethercore went through them while I was saying that, but most units can't go through them. I don't think Zets can either, but I could be wrong. Doesn't really matter, though. The bottom line is they are pretty big, and when you blow them open, you can attack into the middle of the map a lot more open. But you also have the high ground over here, so this is kind of new for the map. It didn't previously have those. It just had all open ground. I think it works a little bit better with high ground. It gives you a little bit more something to play around in the middle, and also work around in general. Crazy a number of Legionnaires are up that ramp. Zeth's tuck tail immediately. Quaz patrolling, hatch on the way. Couple Droleth at the ramp hatch. So we will have a decent amount of larva here for Turtle. Let's see what he can mass up behind this. He definitely needs to switch gears into away from worker production. He actually cancels his hatch at the expansion, seeing this move out, which I don't hate. I do worry a little bit that he's sacrificing his position though, and he's not actually entrenching with like a Circuit up here or anything. Looks like he's gonna say, yeah, I'm getting to it, as opposed to just not doing it. Smarty, I like his move though. He pushes out, forces AOT to play defensive, and then just goes back home and builds an expansion. He doesn't know that there's no expo or that it was canceled at all. Even if he scouts up here and sees no expo, he's not going to know that it was canceled. But he did a lot of damage with that move out. AOT respecting the Protoss army there because he had been a little bit on the greedy side. Kind of punishing himself for that greed there. Oh my god, a pylon! We never see pylon. I mean, theres no supply in the game, so you don't have to be supply capped, so you don't need pylons for that. And power is given to you by the Nexus and by Crucibles. So typically, pylons are actually pretty rare, but Smarty's doing it. And I dig it. By the way, technically you can repower the Monuments of Sin with a pylon, and if you do that, or an autocord, I guess. And if you do that, you they will regenerate their shields. So I guess if you want to keep them a little bit more intact for a little bit longer as blockages or whatever, that is a strat you can take home and do in team games or whatever, where the maps have some Monuments of Sin sometimes. Bunch of Zealots and a single Vassal are in production. That'll be interesting, probably just for a scout. Ardent Authority comes online pretty fast here, as the Nexus has already been giving up a little bit of S-Beam. Oh no, that wasn't Ardent, that was a Matrix. Mistook the sound. Ardent Authority will definitely be what Smarty wants, though. I mean, he's already indicated as such throughout all 5 games so far. There is the Calcure Lake off of the freshly minted hatch at the natural. Feels like a very even game 5 so far. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I said Smarty he's not really doing builds that are giving him a kill window in the first couple minutes. He's actually just going to go for something a little bit more middle of the road in that respect, but will be able to make a lot of units and challenge for action. Shroud coming and pairing with the Calcure Lake. We've now essentially seen a completely different approach to 4 out of 5 games by Turtle, and the time it was, 2 games in a row of Lake play or whatever in Game 1 and Game 2, it still was a little bit different in execution. So he's really impressed me with how different his builds have been. Smarty has shown a little bit of depth with the presence of the Kabbalist, so you can't discount that. Definitely got ahead in terms of AOT building a lot of counters to it. He went up against Aoud so many times with that. And look at this, AOT, instead of going for Lyrilisks this time, I love it. He's gone for the Calcalisks. He's going to go Calcazorius, so it's a really fun composition. But has the potential to be a little bit feast or famine. There's a lot of Ecclesiasts here in this army, and Matrixes galore as well to get that shield status up. A very fast Crucible, and now we're adding the Ardent Authority alongside all these gateways. So the Crucible increases the training speed of the structures that it empowers. You'll notice a slight white pulsing overlay here over the affected structures. These gateways are not affected here. The Nexus is, however, so scribes are being made faster, which is pretty nifty. And then we have the Ardent Authority and the 2 gateways. They don't build faster when made in the radius of a Crucible. They just have to be completed in order to benefit from the aura. Third base at 12 o'clock. This one has pretty standard resource allotment. So there's that. There's 4 ridges over here at the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock bases. Kind of funny. Witness moving along the top strip of the map. 6 Lake is on the way, so at least there will be witnesses. He actually only makes the 1 and then goes into Artisan production, which makes sense if it's empowered by a Crucible, you know? Ardent Authority number 2 and Positrons are starting to come out. So let's see what Smarty does from here. It doesn't look like he can really easily take a third base. Tesseract is actually pretty, like... It's hard to take extra bases on Tesseract that are not seen by your opponent. It feels very compact in its pathways, which is interesting because it's just not something you see every day. Lakers are out and are moving forward. AOT, to secure an area on the map is going to be a little bit challenging for him, it feels like. But he might have been able to do so with the Vorvs already, like kind of isolating where his opponent actually is. 6 Lakers is nothing to scoff at if the Zoryus can debuff them. Where are those calcs at, by the way? Okay, they end up moving down over here, and they were scouted by the vassals, so Anti-Air immediately comes down. Warden and Engram try to beat them back. A third Ardent Authority, don't tell me he boxed himself in with that one. I think you can still kind of get around, or maybe get between these two, but that's going to be a little bit awkward. Idols are rallied to the mineral line. I love it. Smarty knows exactly what to do in this situation, and Zealots are indeed going to have to be navigating in a funny way to get out. 11 Lyrilisks on the ramp. The Lake is setting up for a bit of a containment. That Scribe intending to go for that third base is going to be killed. Smarty remembers how Macroglio went. He does not need another game where he just gets kind of permanently contained on 2 base, snuffed out before he can ever really get going. His Crucible's online very early now. He's built up a very, very big army. And AOT, on the other hand, has kind of gone for quality over quantity, which is not typically the Zerg's mantra. So we have pretty even worker, army count, rather. Smarty obviously down in workers. Will that be the end of Turtle? Nothing for detection on against that Witness means that the Lakers can just run up, and there's no melee here as a buffer, so most of those Lakers are going to get shredded. That was a lot of the heavy-hitting DPS that Turtle needed to rely on. Now, he's got a lot of armor rend over here between the Zoryus spotting rills that explode with corrosive touch, like the Devourer passive in a way, you know. It doesn't stack, though. Just a single stack of it. And, of course, the Vorv's also rending a little bit armor as well. But that looked pretty dire. He lost a bunch of his Lakes. He's making more calcs. If he can get up to a really nice, sizable force... a bunch of Drollets getting rallied to their deaths. A couple Zoryus as well. These are expensive mineral sinks, and he is just losing them. So he will not end up replenishing his stocks as much as he would have liked. He's got more Calculusks coming. 21 pairs of Quas. The macros slept pretty hard here for AOT to have so many units in production and still have almost 2,000 minerals. He's clearly gotten a lot of workers here, but he does not have as much army as you would expect to associate with all that. Now the Calculusks need to respect those Positrons. They are getting shellacked as we speak, and you'd think maybe it would work out better, but the Lakers couldn't find any purchase. And so down goes almost all of the Zerg army without any opportunity for reprisal. No splash damage, no crowd control that could handle all of that armor. 12 o'clock will be stamped out. 30 Lyrilisks are being made in the natural of AOT. That's the anti-armor that he's going to have. Okay armor pen in that respect. Yeah, the Lakers were all the way up here at 12. He never made more. He really needed some kind of dedicated splash damage versus that composition. The Calculusks, in theory, can do it, but they were fighting over the rest of the ground army, and the Positrons just did damage to everything. You needed to take that fight from multiple angles if you wanted to win it with just the Calcs. The Lyrilisks might be able to shred the Zealots as they come on in. Can't exactly shield heal them in that respect. I don't know what's happening over here, but that's great. Now, I don't think the Positrons are going to have as much of a bad time against the Lyras as you might initially suspect. Especially with that cliff advantage extending the projectile range. Oh my god. This is where you would want the Zoryus or Vorvs. Try to run on top of them and see what you can do there. But there's so many Positrons. And the Lakes are only now being remade. He's got 1,000 minerals still in the bank. He could go back to mining at that 12 o'clock if he wanted to, but Zealots have been dispatched to make sure that that's a bit of a pipe dream. Still no third base actually up here for Smarty behind this. So, you know, there's a chance here for Turtle to come back into this game. It's not all over, but he's losing Lakes at 12. They're being spawn camped as we speak. He needs to send the Calcs over to clear that or something. Hatch in the top left. Yeah, Smarty knew that that was a possibility. Zets are going to go ahead and try to deal with those Zealots over there while a bunch more get cleaned up by the Positrons, and that reveals where Smarty needs to send his forces. Now he's a little bit worried. He's jockeying back and forth across that bridge, knowing that it's at any point he could just get surrounded by whatever else Turtle has, but we can see kind of playing his day here. There is nothing that can contend with all of those Positrons. Turtle's got the right idea, but it's very late. The Hydra Thin, you go for Bactals here. It can deal with the Positrons. If you're not able to clear the witnesses with something else like the Calcs, you know, Calc-Avi, then you cannot get much done. I love that he ends up going and canceling out the Scribe at that 9 o'clock. He's going to send the Zets over to 6 now, but he is under duress. There's no units here. Well, he made a couple Lyras, but he's not going to be able to defend this army off. And a bunch of Zets now moving over towards the 3 o'clock position. This is going to be a pretty exciting game as, again, Smarty was a little bit all in, or very committed, it should be said, considering he's now going to lose access to that extra base. So he clears the workers here in the top left. That bought a lot of time for Turtle, who's still on a really solid 2-base eco, has so many minerals. Dude, what is he going to make? Is he just going to go for Teths and ignore the Bactals? I suppose that could, in theory, work, but I think the Positrons are going to be too powerful here. This army is just... It's like a roving band of Psystorm. You just can't do anything to it without a little bit of dedicated splash damage, maybe a bit of a range advantage. The lake is just can be cleared there. Man, the Zets even almost tear down that engram. Workers have to be pulled in the process. I love the gusto that AOT has taken to the series, but I feel like he was very greedy early on, very slow to tech, and very slow to spend his money. Again, there was a period of time he must have had like almost 3k minerals in the bank in this game. That's how successful his eco was, but unsuccessful his spending was. And honestly, well, Smarty doesn't want to just walk right in, and you know, he does trigger the Vorvs initially. You have the Calcs coming in here. They're going to pick apart that Legionnaire that's scouting out at the 3 o'clock. Maybe go hunting for additional Nexuses. Clarions are coming out in full force, each successive one, making it a bit harder to snipe the pack. Yeah, he wants to go after that wounded engram, which doesn't suck as an option, but yeah, the army has preempted this move. He does need to cycle back, and at the very least, he's bought some time, where his opponent isn't actually sending a bunch of military at his natural, so there is that, but he wasn't able to get this top left base up and running. He has been able to make Bactals. He's not making the swamp, despite the money. He needs to grab all the units that he can here. I don't think he can leave a single thing behind, and he does need to watch out for any movement that goes directly across the middle of the map. We don't have any manifolds, I don't think. Oh, we have a couple manifolds here. I was going to say, he could maybe pop the Monument of Sin then. Okay, scouts the army. Now, what does Smarty do? Does he just choose to crush the military here? Does he want to enter into some kind of weird base race? Oh, this is dangerous for Smarty, because he doesn't want to split his army. He wants to ball up if he can. Doesn't want to fight a war on multiple fronts here. Zeth sees Scribes moving in 9 o'clock. I don't know if AOT sees it, though. Bactals are going to eat this alive up here in the top. Initially, not a great fight for Smarty. It's on a knife's edge. The Clarions are all stacked up in the top part of the map. I don't think that they're really going to help out in the initial phase. Now they come back in, and look at how many shields they are providing to everything in the process. And that is the rundown. The ball of Positrons charging forth. 22 of them staying alive during the whole affair. Not a nary a splash damage unit in sight for AOT. And GG well played has to be called, as he knows he screwed his macro there a little bit too much, and Smarty will proceed. Game 5, and the underdog takes it. Wild scenes there. Wild scenes. GG, definitely a difficult road for AOT to falter on, that first step there, but we got some really entertaining games out of it. I'm very pleased with how we got to see a nice back and forth That means that SmrtyCakes will be facing the Shambler. That's going to be a TVP, with Shambler opting as the Terran in quarterfinal number 4. So, join us for that match soon. But first, we've got some other matches to cast in the earlier stages of the quarterfinals coming to you also soon. GG.